Hello, my name is Matthew Bonnet. With me is Jason Sloan. We're with Cohort 15 of the Guildhall. Today is January 24th, 2011. And we're going to be showing you the Fracture tool. We'll be using the December 2010 version of UDK. Now, essentially, what the Fracture tool does is it takes a static mesh and it breaks it down into pieces so that it can become a destructible object whenever you place it into your world. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to open up our content browser by clicking on the icon. Let's slide this in to where you can see it a little bit better. And we're going to go ahead and pick a static mesh that we're wanting to break. So let's go ahead and choose this guy. You can double click on the wall or you can right click and go to the editor properties. Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go to the fracture tool. You can use this icon here or you can open up tool and go to fracture tool. Let me zoom in on the wall a little bit. Alright, so the first option we have here is generate chunks. We have number of chunks. It goes all the way from 1 to 150, and the number in the middle shows you how many that you have selected at the moment. Although it can go to 150, it's suggested that you stay closer to 20. Once you start getting too many chunks in there, you'll start having some issues whenever the wall starts to fall apart. So let's go ahead and set it to 20. I'm going to go ahead and generate. And you can see that it went ahead and cut some lines. And now you can see how the wall is going to fall apart. If you don't like the way that the chunks look, you can go to chunk shape and you can mess with these numbers here on the side. They correspond to the X, Y, and Z. You see how they're changing here. Um, for this wall, I'm just going to leave it as it is. That actually looks pretty good. You can also randomize. This shifts it just slightly. If you put in some numbers here for the amounts that you're wanting to shift it, you can see it's starting to move along the x-axis. If we put a number in here, let me put that one back down. That still looks like the x-axis. But anyway, you can see that the chunks are moving and that they're not staying in place anymore. And so you can kind of play with it until you get the wall looking the way that you want it to fall apart. That's good for the purposes here. Next thing we have are some chunk options. Those do not become available until you actually highlight a chunk. Clicking on the chunks is kind of difficult sometimes, so it's easier to use the selection menu here. So you can grow the selection, you can shrink it, you can select the top, you can select the bottom, and you can invert your selection. For the purposes that we're going for right now, we want to select the bottom. What we're going to do is we're going to set up some support chunks. So first we have destroyable. That means that these are able to be knocked out of the wall. Support chunks mean that if all these other chunks are relying on it. So if a chunk cannot draw a line to the support chunk through other chunks, it's going to fall off. So let's say that this big piece right here, if it didn't have any of these other ones connected to it, it wouldn't be able to touch these support chunks, and so it would fall over automatically. So that's what we're going for right now, so that's why we have the bottom selected. You also have some viewing options. You can change the way that you're viewing the chunks. You can show some more lines. You can show the cuts. We don't need to mess with that right now. So right now we're just going to go ahead and slice it. It's going to give you the option to place this in another package and get to give it another group name and a name. I'm going to leave it in LT underscore buildings 2 and in the group SM period mesh. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the name the same as well, but I'm going to go ahead and add a fractured 2 to the end of this. Actually, I'm going to leave it as fractured because I already have a couple of other ones that are named differently. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and that's going to go ahead and perform the slices. So now we have it cut. So we're going to go ahead and close. Now, the important thing here is if you place this into the world as it is right now, it would work, but you wouldn't be able to go through it. So after you knock down the wall, you couldn't walk through it. So we're going to go ahead and go down to use simple box collision. We're going to uncheck that. And the simple line collision, we're going to uncheck that as well. So now you can shoot through the wall and you can walk through it as well once it's down. Now, that'll all be good. However, as the chunks fly off, they'll have the default texture on. So to get rid of that, you'll go to LOD info, expand it, 0, elements, 0, and 1. Now this 0 is the exterior material. We're going to copy this, we're going to paste it to the 1 and hit enter. And you can see that it's now in this 1 position as well. The 1 is the interior of the wall, so as the chunks are falling off, they're going to have the same material that the exterior has. We can go ahead and close this window out, And now we need to save our new fractured material. So we'll just right click on it and save. Okay, so now that we have our object saved, scroll this out of the way, you can right click in the window and add the fractured static mesh, or you could drag and drop it into the window. So let's slide right here. I'll close my content browser. Let's go ahead and play from here. And well, I didn't redo the lighting, but here. You can see that the wall is falling apart, and you can see that it has the texture on the inside. Here's a wall that does have the lighting. My lighting is taking a little bit longer to recalculate, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. There are a few properties that you can still play with. If you go to the properties window, you can change the health chunks and some other info here, and that about wraps it up for this video.